very, very excited to introduce to you, she is Laurel, the battle deck commander of the Klingon ship, Mary Chieffo. He is Cole, the commander of the Klingons, Kenneth Mitchell. Junior Officer Connor of the Shenzhou. Yes, okay, we're getting into character. This is great. Junior Officer Connor of the Shenzhou, Sam Vartholomeos. Chief Medical Officer Hugh Colber of the Starship Discovery, Wilson Cruz. All right, so, wow. Wow. So, this is your first Star Trek convention, I'm assuming, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Welcome.
Hello, humans.
This is where you want to be. This is talk about Star Trek Discovery premiering on September 24th. The question just to start is, like, how familiar were you all with Star Trek before this even came to fruition? Like, which one of you was a fan? Which one of you just sort of like knew what was going on? What was your introduction to Star Trek and what did it mean to you? Let's start with you, Mary.
Well, my first introduction was I went to see the 2009 movie, and I got really excited by the idea of the franchise, the chemistry between the cast, this forward-thinking sci-fi. I'd always been a sci-fi fantasy geek, and so it made me then get inspired to go back, and then I watched the original movies and fell in love with those, and really started falling in love with the original series and the intelligence and the science in the actual series. And then upon getting this part, the assignment I gave myself was to go through and watch all of the Klingon-based episodes throughout every iteration of the show. And so now I have a little flavor of each cast, each ensemble, and I've really fallen in love with the entire, franchise as a whole. So yeah.
How about you, Kenneth?
I was familiar with the series Next Generation, the original series TOS, but it wasn't until I got the job that I had to start revisiting everything. And I have a really close friend who's actually a close friend of Ted Sullivan's as well, and Sam Witwer. You may know who he is. And I would go over to his house. I've posted stuff online about it, but I would go over to his house and he would more or less educate me right from the first episode all the way to the end, and really focusing mostly on Klingon stuff. The first Errand of Mercy.
Yes!
Mr. Core. And I also remember as a kid, The Wrath of Khan. That was definitely one of my favorite movies, and still to this day remains to be so.
All right, Sam, how about you?
When I was young, my dad and I would watch movies all the time, and not very appropriate movies for like a 7-year-old. Like we'd watch The Godfather and Goodfellas and Meet Joe Black, which is one of my favorite movies. So my dad would try and get me to watch Star Trek. My brother, who's 8 years older than me, would try and get me to watch Star Wars. So I had a tug of war between them, and my dad ultimately won because in Voyage Home, with the whale. I loved the whales when I was a kid, and I saw this whale, and I was like, they got the whale, and the whale's small now, and they're bringing the whale with them. And that's when I watched the old movies. I never got into the shows, so now that everything is online, I got into TOS and Next Generation, and now I'm part of it, which is super humbling.
Pinch me.
Yeah. Seriously, and seeing everyone here is I don't know, I got chills. It's amazing.
All right, Wilson, how about you? I get a feeling that you might be a little bit of a bigger Star Trek fan among this cast here.
Well, I think it's a competition. I think I take a backseat to Anthony Rapp any day on that subject. But I'm probably the oldest one on this panel right now. But I was enamored with the original, but my real introduction was The Next Generation, and that's when I really became obsessed. And let's just be honest about it. And so, for me, just having worked with Jonathan Frakes and as a director I had to get over that really quickly because I was like, oh my God, Riker's telling me what to do. And
Is that his name?
Frick, sorry.
Good catch.
Here we go. But anyway, so I will say really quickly that when I was cast, I wrote a little note to Aaron and Gretchen and to the head of CBS casting saying thank you because as a kid, a young Latino kid in Brooklyn and in the Inland Empire in California, all I ever wanted to do was be on Broadway and be on Star Trek. And so for me, this is a dream come true, and pretty awesome that I get to share that experience with a man that I have known and loved for 20 years, Anthony Rapp. So it's incredibly, incredibly special that he's a part of both of those experiences for me.